So what happened the first time we couldn't leave China successfully was because we got stuck in the floods in Zhengzhou, and our flight was scheduled to leave on the 21st. I'm sorry, no, 22nd. The huge rains came on the 20th. The flight was canceled on the 22nd. And so everything we done before that, including the COVID test for the four of us, were invalid. So the new flight is scheduled for 4th of August, and hopefully this time we'll leave successfully. And this is what the scene looks like. Today is the 28th of July. I just went by that Zhengzhou, and it still looks like it's closed. That's a separate issue, but the tunnel that was flooded, as most of you probably seen in the news, it is still closed 1 week later. And today's the 28th of July, 2021.
봐봐.
나는 너무
明天上午给你打，这天嘛，不知道，好吧？
走吧，看不到下面。
So as you can see, there was a real tragedy what happened to this city last week, and it still makes me quite nervous that I hope I don't run into any more problems. Even when I do leave, we as a family do leave Zhengzhou, we got to get down to Shenzhen and take the ferry and head into Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong we board our flight back to Toronto. So hopefully everything is going to go smoothly this time, and we'll see what happens. So financially, this is a very expensive trip, especially with the four of us. Now, if it's just one person, it wouldn't be so financially straining, but with the four of us, any kind of change to this flight, like the first time we experienced it, just hits the pocketbook really bad. This particular flight from Hong Kong to Toronto ran up to $8,800, around 8,000 something. So this particular time, the first time we booked with Air Canada, this is with Cathay Pacific, we couldn't get a change at the same price, and any other changes. The first time was flying out July 23rd. That was 5,500 around there for the four of us. But since we couldn't get down, it wasn't the airline's fault, so we didn't get, either had to cancel with a huge penalty, or they said they would credit the amount, the 5,500 for 24 months, and we could probably use this at a later date. So that was the first time. The second time I booked it again with another airlines, Eva Air, and they canceled on me because I had to fly to Taiwan. And this was the third time I rebooked this flight again. The second time and the third time it was also August 4th, because you may or may not know, we're flying back from overseas into Canada, and there's still that 3-day hotel quarantine that we have to do. We have to pay for ourselves, and there's no change on that, because if you rebook that, there's no refund, and you have to repay again. So I wanted to keep the date on August 4th. So this third time, Cathay Pacific, this 8,800, this is a direct flight from Hong Kong to Toronto, and so this is the third time I booked this flight, and this is at this particular, for the four of us, it came up to, I bought some insurance as well. And this doesn't include our flight out of Zhengzhou down to Shenzhen. Apparently we can't take direct flights into Hong Kong, because if you split into two itineraries, they're not going to let you in Hong Kong. Everything has to be in one itinerary. And we also can't do that with the kids' status situation. They have 2 passports, and mainland China is not going to let them out in that situation with one flight. So this is, a little impact like this, a date change, even a date change really impacts us really heavily financially, and it's a real big pain. And this is the third flight already that I've had to adjust. So I really hope nothing goes wrong, and we'll see what happens.
So this is the flight scheduled out of Hong Kong to Toronto on August 4th, and it costs about $8,900. I bought the insurance plan as well, and this is probably going to be the last long distance flight we're going to take as a family for a while. After all these issues, I'm a little travel weary by now, but hopefully this flight is not going to be a problem. We'll get on properly. So this particular, this one was the first flight I had on July 23rd. This was the direct flight from Hong Kong to Toronto. And this one cost me about, $5,286, $5,300. This was charged onto the credit card already. This I will not get back, but I'll get a credit for it for a different flight at a later time for the 4 of us. So this was the original one, and unfortunately I had to cancel this particular flight on July 23rd because of the flood up in Zhengzhou. I couldn't get down to Hong Kong. This was the second flight that I booked, and I was supposed to fly out. But due to the COVID-19 restrictions, the Taipei airport was closed off to international transfers, and I only got informed a day after I booked this flight. And even Expedia didn't even know. When I called Expedia, they said the flight is still available. I said no. I just got the email saying that this flight is not available because international travel cannot stop over in Taipei. Which led me to book the original flight, the Cathay Pacific, the first one. But this was a good deal if I would have been able to go on this flight. This was again August 4th departure from Hong Kong to Taipei, and from Taipei to Toronto. So this was canceled just a couple hours after I booked it, and this cost me around $4,000. This was much cheaper than the flight we have now. And this one, if I would have been able to take this one, this would only have been $4,200. It's probably less than the price that we have to pay now. It's the same day. It was the same day, but unfortunately, yeah, this one was canceled, which led me to scramble on to find the flight that we have now. The same day as well, August 4th. And due to all these COVID restrictions, we don't really know. It's still really uncertain who's going to cancel what. So it's still pretty stressful So I've racked up almost $20,000 in flight money. I haven't even taken these flights yet on my credit card, and I had to push about $10,000 onto the credit card in cash. Push it onto the credit card so that I wouldn't go over the limit. So EVA Airways, this is about 4,000 something dollars here, and I'm not going to get this back for another 2 to 3 months, they said. Even though the flight was canceled, it was their fault. But again, I have to pay first. Cathay Pacific, this is the actual flight that we're going to schedule to go on in a few days, and this is about $9,000 with the insurance money. And also the Air Canada flight that we couldn't make it on. That was about $5,300. So that I will get a credit for a future flight. But again, I can't. The money's not refundable. All I can do is use a credit for that. So yeah, there's about $20,000 in just flight money that I had to pay up front, and I will get some of it back, but yeah, I have to pay it up front first. And due to all these COVID restrictions and our problems getting down to Hong Kong, this is what happened. So I really hope this time we can get on this flight and get back home safely without a problem. So we still got the COVID test to do before we're leaving. So our whole itinerary is pretty complicated. We start off in Zhengzhou, and then we have to take the plane down to Shenzhen. So there's no direct flights into Hong Kong unless it's all one itinerary, and it's not possible for us to do that because the kids do have 2 passports with 2 different names on their passports. So we have to get out of mainland China, not through flights, but we have to take a boat. So our first flight is from Zhengzhou to Shenzhen, and again, I've lost money from the previous schedule that we're supposed to leave, the July 23rd, and I had to rebook that. That was canceled. And I've been through this many times. I tried to book once from Zhengzhou directly to Hong Kong, then I found out it wasn't possible. I was told you would get you would be denied boarding right in mainland China, right at Zhengzhou. You wouldn't be allowed on the plane, period, because it's not all one flight connected. So the first flight is from Zhengzhou to Shenzhen. Then from Shenzhen, we have to take the cab to. There's a port called Shekou. It's called Shekou Port, and that's a boat trip. From then, if we are successfully on this Shekou Port, we take the boat trip to Hong Kong, and that has to be done previously. The tickets have to be bought 48 hours beforehand, which we've already done. And finally, if we do make it into Hong Kong, then we take the flight directly to Toronto. So this is basically our 4-step itinerary. And as I said before, we did not make it out of Zhengzhou back in last week in July 22nd. So yeah, this is basically the 4 steps we have to go through, and each step it is a bit of a hassle too, because they won't let you out of mainland China if you don't have the proper documentations, like an English COVID-19 test, all the boarding and the proper documentations. And once we get into Hong Kong, I think 90% we're pretty much set. But the hurdle now is no weather problems and getting out of mainland China.